In this next round, both our competitors are 2-0, so whomever wins advances on to the round of 16. If they win, they are in. Our very first competitor coming out from Belgium, a Magic Hall of Famer. Join me in welcoming Luca van Dun. Pleased and proud to be up on stage. Going to be running Golgari Explore and Esper Control. Now, Golgari Explore, very popular in sideboard style best of 3 standard events. Very rarely seen here in this event. Luca's opponent will be from Italy, Edoardo Annunziata. Now, Edoardo will be playing Selesnya tokens and mono red, which means there is 0 chance of any mirror matchup occurring in this best of 3. Who will come out on top? Will Golgari Explore be able to go off with Wild Growth Walkers? Let's find out. Over to you, commentators.
League 9, players are getting seated and ready. So once again, if you're just joining us here for the Mythic Invitational, a little bit different than your normal Magic tournament. It's played on MTG Arena, so that's a big difference. And then also with Duo Standard, the players are going to be, their decks are going to be chosen for them at random here.
Yeah, they each brought 2 decks. You could bring 2 of the same deck. Not a lot of players did that so far. I haven't seen anybody do that. And then you randomly get one of those, get paired up against a random one of your opponent's 2 decks. Hope you get a good matchup.
So let's take a look. I'm gonna put you in Quicksort seat here, and I'm gonna say you get your Selesnya aggro deck picked. What do you want to see on the other side?
Well, if I get the Selesnya aggro deck, I probably want to see the Golgari Explorer.
So that's the one we have on the screen here for Legend. A little slower.
It's a little slower. This deck preys on decks like mono red. It's good against mono white decks. Fine Finality is just a backbreaker of a card. Wild Growth Walker combined with all these Explorer creatures is just really hard for the aggro creature decks to deal with, because not only do you get the life gain, but you get a large creature when you explore with another creature. So this deck is a nightmare for the small creature decks.
Yeah, Legend's other deck is Esper Control, which is a deck that we've seen quite a bit of here in the field thus far. How would you say this one is tuned at a glance?
At a glance, it looks like it's about the same as the rest. It's
kind of in the middle.
Kind of in the middle. It's got Lyra in the main deck instead of Nezahal, so it's more geared toward the aggro decks. 2 Cryother Carnariums, 3 Kaya's Wraths, 3 Vasquez Contempts, 2 Cast Down, 2 Moment of Craving, lots of removal. Does have 1 Negate main and only 2 Search for Escantas, so it's not as geared for the control decks, but it's not up against one of those, so it doesn't have to worry. It actually seems very well positioned against the mid-range decks.
Now, for Quicksort, what is Quicksort working with here with this Selesnya aggro deck that we see here?
This is another deck that looks like it preys on the small creature decks very well. It puts out lots of tokens, lots of creatures. March of the Multitude gives you a multitude of, gives you an army of life-linking creatures.
It does do that. I mean, you're not wrong.
I didn't want to use the word again twice. Unbreakable Formation is obviously backbreaking in a deck like this that can go this wide. So this deck looks to prey on small creature decks also.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is a small creature deck. It just grows them much better, and produces much more of them. On the other side there, for Quicksort, he's got, well, mono red aggro, the old standby here.
Yeah, mono red aggro.
This is a pretty standard build as well.
He's only running 17 land. I think I mentioned something about that. Some of the decks have run 21, 20, but with the way the hand selection works,
17.
I like skimping on land here. You're going to get your opening hand of land, and you don't want to draw that many more.
17? That's something I run on my draft decks.
He doesn't have Experimental Frenzy. Experimental Frenzy is something that's usually mana hungry. I mean, the most expensive card in his deck is Goblin Chainwhirler at 3 mana or a risk factor.
Yeah.
Skewer the Critics and Light Up the Stage, and Wizard's Lightning all can get a bonus to cost cheaper.
Right. So. And also, you've been mentioning over the course of our tournament so far, Runaway Steamkin can help you with your mana as well.
Absolutely.
Players are taking a look at the deck list now, as you can see, and this is part of the way that this tournament works, is that before they get to play, they do get to look at the same list that we have here, so they have an idea of what's going on, and that's, of course, for tournament integrity reasons, so that way, if somebody's featured on camera, we show their deck list, we don't put them at a disadvantage.
Looks like Quicksort's on mono red. I'm looking at his opening hand, so I guess he's using the deck list kind of to decide his mulligan.
All right, there it is. So 3 of his 17 mountains here. G2 Lava Runner, Viashino Pyromancer, and a Light Up the Stage with a Skewer the Critics. I mean, that's a keep, right?
That's a easy keep. I think right now he wants to not draw any more lands. He's got 3. He can cast all his spells. He's got a 1-drop into 2-drop. Damage sources to turn on the Spectacle for Light Up the Stage and Skewer the Critics. It's a pretty good hand, especially on the play.
By the way, you may notice that we've got some card styles, they're called here. These are actually available now on Arena. You can get them. They apply to all copies of that card once you buy by the style.
Now, this is an interesting hand for Legend. He's got mana. His lands will come into play untapped after playing a Watery Grave on turn 1. He's got interaction on turn 2 and turn 3 with Thought Erasure and Mortify, but unfortunately he doesn't have any early removal. And usually you'd like to have a Moment of Craving or a Cast Down to kind of deal with an early threat. He won't be able to do anything until turn 3, and he's on the draw. So he could find himself at a very low life by the time he starts interacting with his opponent.
Can he afford to be picky enough to send a hand like this back?
I don't think he can.
Yeah.
You've got 4 mana. You've got good mana.
Yep.
Double black, double white. Got all your blue. You've got a 2-drop into 3-drop. You just have to hope you fill this hand out.
Okay. Looks like Legend's going to probably want to keep this one and just try to make it work.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Eduardo's in the tank. Legend can't make his decision until until Quicksort does first. I'm not sure what Quicksort.
Yeah, they might be waiting for the go-ahead as well, as we do have to get all of our players on the same page. So.
Yeah, because he looks like he's pretty deep in the tank looking at his picture here, and maybe he's studying the list.
I've got it at 50-50. He's either deep in the tank or he's bored because he's waiting to be told you're okay to pick. it could be either one of them, and we'll find out in a minute.
Right now, what he's doing is he's saying a little prayer that his opponent is not on Golgari Explore.
Yes.
He's like,
I
don't want to see Wild Growth Walker.
Not that
his hand is, I mean, I guess, let's see, if he played Wild Growth Walker, he could attack into it. Nope, he's got no answer. Skewer the Critics won't be able to turn on.
All right, both players have kept their openers, and we're underway here.
Or he could play his 3rd land and cast.
Indeed. All right, land go from Legend.
Another land for Legend. 5th mana source.
Yeah, it's getting a little much. He kind of wants to stop there, right? Like 5's enough for now, thank you.
Yeah, for now. I mean, you want some later, but he really wants to draw like a Cast Down or a Moment of Craving.
It looks like just going to get on board with the old 1-2 punch here from Quicksort. Got you down to 17. 3 power currently on the battlefield for him, so a good start for Quicksort. And there's Thought Erasure, so a non-board affecting spell here, setting up for the future for Legend, but he's still going to be taking damage here, and good options either way for Quicksort.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to take up light up the stage because he really doesn't want Quicksort to find more permanents to put on the battlefield. Taking 3 damage is fine. It's not fine, but it's better than more creatures that can likely do more than 3 damage with a hand like he has, 2 Teferis and a Mortify.
I think that Quicksort's deciding if he wants to just fire off the Skewer in the main phase.
Right,
I mean, pump up his Lava Runner.
He'll pump up the Lava Runner, but he'll spend all 3 of his mana. Post-combat, he could cast both, but I think in this spot it's fine to just cast it pre-combat. You get that 1 extra point. You'll find time to cast that Skewer later.
Yep. And that's what he does. Land Skewer, hit you for 4, go.
Wow.
And boom, halfway there. LegenVD all the way down to 10 life already. And Moment of Craving. Ooh,
excellent draw, yeah.
That was a nice one.
Get rid of the source of damage and gain 2 life back.
Back up to 12 now for Legend as he passes the turn back, and another land off the top for Quicksort. He has specifically built his deck so that it doesn't do this, and it's doing this. He's drawing too many lands.
Yeah, I mean, luckily he has plenty of reach in his deck. He's about to attack his opponent to 10. He can skewer him to 7. He's just got to hope he draws some more burn off the top.
Oh, and another Moment of Craving off the top of the library for Legend. Exactly what he wants to see here. Killing the only remaining threat, jumping back up to 9 life and saying go on an opponent who has nothing. Ooh, how about Risk Factor? Decision time.
Yeah, this is an incredible draw here right now because you're either going to get 3 cards or you're going to put your opponent to 5, and with the Jumpstart ability and a Mountain in hand, next turn you're going to put him right back in the same spot. So I think it's obvious you take the 4 here and go to 5, but the next one is going to resolve. I don't think you can go to 1.
So here's Teferi, Hero of Dominaria from Legend. Probably the most powerful card in his deck, full stop, but I got to tell you, he's got to use it to find some action here because the heat is on from Quicksort, and there's a Viashino Pyromancer as well.
Yeah, he's got a tough choice here. If he plays the Pyromancer, he can't cast the Risk Factor because he needs a 3rd mana, a 5th mana, and a card in hand. So it's, do you cast the Risk Factor or do you cast the Pyromancer? I think you actually cast the Risk Factor here because I doubt your opponent goes to 1, and if they do, that's great. You got a Pyromancer. And then hopefully in those 3 cards, you find the 5th mana so that you can cast the Pyromancer.
Tell you what, David, that's exactly what Quicksort thinks. He's going to fire Risk Factor right upstairs and say, Legend, you have to make the decision here.
And I just don't think you can go to 1 against this mono red deck.
I mean, he could be dead right now.
Yeah, you've got
no. Oh, he's going to 1.
Wow.
No shock in hand here for Quicksort, so he gets to survive a turn, but he is going to need to see life gain or a counterspell right now, or this thing's over.
Wow.
So far, nothing.
He can cast Chemist's Insight. He will untap 2 lands from the triggered ability of Teferi. So he's going to have to find another moment of craving, but I believe he only has, does he have 3 or 2? He only has 2. So Vraska's Contempt, but he won't be able to cast that. Oh, he will. Untap 2 lands.
So he can cast it with the Viashino Pyromancer trigger on the stack to stay at 1 life?
Wow, that's something I actually have. I thought of it, but I just never seen it come up.
This is about as close as it gets here. Legend is playing with fire, as it were.
Wow.
Going to 1 against the mono red deck.
Incredible.
Will his gambit pay off?
Huge risk, but...
Now, what is Quicksort going to... He only has 1 choice, right? Cast a Pyromancer or not. Does he cast it?
I think he doesn't want to walk into Absorb, is actually what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
So he's trying to wait to maybe he can draw another burn spell so he can play 1 and respond to the Absorb with a burn spell, but...
That's exactly what he's going to do, David. He's going to pass the turn back. But boy, every turn you do this is so bad when they have Teferi Hero of Dominaria.
Something small to notice there. Legend could have jump-started the Chemist's Insight, but he didn't. In a way, he's sort of bluffing that he has Absorb, and I'm sure Quicksort noticed that. So it's kind of like a cat and mouse game. He paused. He's like, oh, does he have a burn? So I'm going to bluff Absorb.
Super interesting stuff here as Legend is hanging on by a mere thread. Can he turn this thing around? Or is Quicksort going to be able to finish off his opponent at just 1 life? There's Chemist's Insight.
Still no Absorb.
He's
no
still not finding what he needs. Wow.
So what Quicksort wants here, he wants to find an instant source of damage so that he can cast the Pyromancer, thinking that he can play around Absorb, but what he'll be playing around is Contempt on the stack on it and respond with a burn spell.
Quicksort draws another mountain.
It's actually his 7th mountain because he discarded 1 to jumpstart.
This is insane.
There's only 10 left in his deck. He's going to continue to hold it up, and
he's just going to pass the turn. Yeah, I mean, he's going to take that line. There's another cast down. So any future creatures from Quicksort are not long for this battlefield, but it's really Absorb that Legend actually wants to find more. And look at this. He's just going to run out another Teferi, it looks like.
Yeah, he could get the emblem if he waited a turn, but the emblem's not that important here at 1.
Is it just too slow?
He can handle all the creatures. You don't really. He wants to dig and find an Absorb. The emblem doesn't do much for him here. 5 mana. There's no creatures to kill. You've got removal spells flowing.
This is about as close as they get here at the Mythic Championship.
Looks like he's
the Mythic Invitational, and he's not going to cast it. Thinking about it. No, he's not going to.
I think I might have dug here. Let's see if... Ooh, light up the stage.
There's light up the stage. That gives a lot of options here for Quicksort, potentially.
And with that land in hand, he's got 6 mana available, 3 for light up the stage. Obviously, you could play the Pyromancer, but triggering Spectacle won't matter because your opponent would be dead, you think. But it's actually interesting. He could play the Pyromancer. Legend would have to Vraska's Contempt it, but he still would take damage, even though he gains the 2 life, which would turn the light up the stage on for 1 mana.
Ooh, supreme patience here from Quicksort. He's just going to pass the turn back to Legend again. Cry of the Carnarium again. Creatures hitting the battlefield and staying there is not the problem at this point for Legend. It's the ability to gain some life at some point in a mana-efficient way.
Quicksort's being very patient, looking for an instant burn source. I think he might, if he watches this later, is going to regret that turn he didn't go for light up the stage first.
All right, well, we'll see if Legend can punish Quicksort here. So there's stage 1 here. That is an ultimate from Teferi. So now, whenever Legend draws a card, like right now off of this second Teferi, he gets to exile a permanent from his opponent.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for Quicksort. He's going to lose one of his mana sources here. And what he wants with that light up the stage costing 3 right now is a lot of mana sources so he can cast it and then cast the burn spells he draws off of it.
So now the clock is very real here in the other direction. If Legend is able to get rid of all of the lands from Quicksort, it doesn't feel like he's going to have a way to get out of this.
Wow.
Goblin Chainwhirler, which, by the way, is lethal.
So Chainwhirler goes on the stack. Vraska's Contempt goes to 3, takes 1, goes back to 2, cast the Viashino Pyromancer, and Legend doesn't have 4 mana, or 8 mana to cast both Vraska's Contempts.
So he actually has lethal here, though. Will he go for it?
He does have lethal in hand if he goes for it.
Oh my goodness!
I think the emblem actually is going to pressure him to go for it. I think without the emblem, he might have waited even longer. But I think because the emblem is going to be eating his mana sources, he's going to go for it here and be rewarded by it. So it's kind of funny that the emblem is going to kind of come back to bite Legend.
It is. Here it is. Goblin Chainwhirler goes on the stack. So Legend has to say, Okay. You've got yourself a Goblin Chain Whirler. With the triggered ability on the stack, he'll need to cast Vraska's Contempt or he will die. There it is. And there's Vraska's Contempt. So now Legend is going to be at 2 life after the Chain Whirler trigger goes. And Quicksort can simply go Mountain, Pyromancer, and it would be over.
And he knows the list. He knows there's only 2 Moment of Cravings, which is the one thing that could get him out of this for 2 mana.
That's
so
right. And you saw him looking at the mana from his opponent, a key thing to consider at all times, and that is going to do it for game number 1. Quicksort off of that quick start gets the job done.
Well played by both players.
Wow, that was super close. Now that means that we're setting up now for game number 2, where the players are going to be playing the opposite of each deck. So Dave, what are we looking at here as far as those lists go?
So Quicksort's now going to kind of switch his deck. Instead of playing mono red aggro, he's going to Celestia aggro, but it's a lot of tokens going wide, unbreakable formation, pumping things, Trostani, whereas Legend's going to switch from Esper Control to Golgari Explore. It has a pretty, I'd say a pretty good matchup. Fine Finality is just backbreaking, because once you put all these creatures on the board, just sweep them all up with 1 card. So Quicksort's going to be looking to get a Trostani out and then get a counter on the Trostani so that it can live through the Fine Finality. Looking at this list, I don't see any Ravenous Chupacabras. He does have Assassin's Trophy, which can help get rid of a Trostani if it does get to 5 toughness, but I think that's what he's looking to do, is get a Trostani at 5 toughness.
Look at this, 3 Fungal Infection for Legend.
Fungal Infection, it shines more against the mono white decks and the red aggro decks, because it can kill a Pyromancer and give you a blocker. Against Eduardo's deck, yeah, it can take out something like a Legion's Landing token, but in general, the creatures are going to have more than 1 toughness, so it's not going to be that great against it. I mean, you can get 1 creature, make a 2/2, a 1/1 and block, but you can't get a 2-for-1 out of it.
Yeah, get a Tithe Taker or a 1/1 token.
You can get a Sapling Migration in the token, but that's not really efficient. You're only getting half of the card. So let's take a look at this opening hand. It's got a good mix of mana, some early spells, Vivian Reed.
So that was a quick mulligan there from Quicksort.
Yeah, it was 2 mana and then a bunch of expensive cards.
Right.
Not the kind of hand you're looking for. You want to curve out when you're playing this Celestia aggro deck.
This one looks much better, though.
Much better. It has its choice of Amara or Saproling Migration. Venerated Loxodon eventually to pump all those tokens up.
It's going to start off with the flower half of Flower Flourish to make sure that the land drops keep flowing as it turns out. This deck can certainly use them, but this is a very strong opening hand. It looks like from both players. Wow, as we could see Amara Soul of the Accord here on turn 2.
Yeah, Trostani is a nice curve topper here with all the tokens that he's going to generate.
It looks like he's going to kick things off with Saproling Migration. And I mentioned it before, but you can see the card styles on there as well. Those are available on Arena now. They're pretty sweet. Also, if you want to know what decks are running, a little bit more about the players, you can check out our cardboard live, customized to this event, by the way. You can get deck lists and player bio information for the camera match at any time.
So you're going to see a Fungal Infection here on his main phase, on Legend's main phase, to prevent any kind of Convoke shenanigans with the tokens.
Very smart from Legend, shows that he's played this matchup quite a bit before. And there she is, Amara, Soul of the Accord, and just passed a turn back. Now you can see in the early stages here that Legend has gone much bigger with the Growth Chamber Guardians ready to get adapted as well. They're huge, they're dwarfing anything on the other side.
Yeah, but you don't want to have your draw phases be Growth Chamber Guardians. You want to get them out with the ability, and he just drew his 3rd. So he only has 1 sort of left he can get with the ability to get any card advantage out of him. That's one of the benefits of it.
This is another benefit of a card like Growth Chamber Guardian. We call it Threat of Activation. This is where if Legend would like to adapt, he could, but it really makes blocking impossible here for Quicksort either way.
It does, and unfortunately for Legend, he didn't have a 4th mana.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So he's unable to keep advancing his board state, and his only play was just to level up one of those Growth Chamber Guardians.
Land number 4 is hitting the battlefield now, though, for Quicksort.
He's got a choice. He can play the Loxodon here, put a counter on both his creatures, and it would tap his Amara to create a token, which I think he's going to do. Like I said, you could save that to try to get your Trostani out of Fine Finality range, but with only 3 mana on the other side, that's not really something you're concerned about. He wants to stop the bleeding at 10 life. Venerated Loxodon trades with Growth Chamber Guardian. If he blocks the 2/2, he forces Legend's hand. Legend has to activate it, which is not casting a spell this turn. Wow, nice draw for Legend, though. He can now Assassin's Trophy to move the Loxodon and attack with all his creatures. It is unfortunate it will give another land to Quicksort, which is what he wants with that hand of March of the Multitudes and Trostani. But I think sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the damage through.
Yeah, especially given that the game plan is the way that it's played out here for Legend is kind of that's it, right? Like, I mean,
the longer this game goes,
yeah,
the worse is it for him without land.
All right, so here it is, Assassin's Trophy. He's going to take down that venerated Loxodon.
I will take action.
Yes. And that will clear the way for a big attack here. 7 damage coming through. Legends looks like he's deciding if he wants to keep that Sapperling home, but he says, no, let's just get in.
I think you can be safe the Sapperling's going to get through because the Convoke deck likes to have all its creatures, so it's not likely going to block with the 1/1, and it can also get that 1 damage back by attacking the next turn. So you can attack with your Sapperling here safely. Oh, wow.
Ooh, Unbreakable Formation is the draw step here. And we're going to see some fireworks over the course of the next couple of turns. March of the Multitudes plus Trostani plus Unbreakable Formation. Is there any way for Legend to get over the top of that type of a beating?
It's tough. I mean, he does have another Assassin's Trophy, so he can kill this Trostani, which would shrink those 3 tokens to 1/1 and attack with everybody. Quicksort's at 5. 1 token could block
the
4/4.
That helps.
Goes to 6 from the lifelink, takes 3 from the other creatures. But it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I think he doesn't really have too many choices without having any land. The rest of his cards don't do much. He could play another Growth Chamber Guardian, but he's up against a pretty rough board. He's going to pass. I think he's deciding if he wants to Assassin's Trophy now or maybe try to get Quicksort in combat.
I think Quicksort's actually considering just going for a March for 2 here. Yeah.
March for 2.
I mean, with Unbreakable Formation, even just 2 extra creatures is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Legend has nothing with Unbreakable Formation, I believe this is lethal. But even if it's not, your creature.
Wow, another March of the Multitudes just in case. But I wouldn't be surprised if he just went Unbreakable Formation, sent in everything, you figure it out, with all the lifelink he's getting as well.
And Vigilance and Indestructible.
Yeah,
Vigilance, you have no worry of them attacking back. Indestructible, they're not going to die.
Now this might change things a little bit though. Here's Assassin's Trophy in response to kill Trostani, which is going to take, well, quite a bit of power off the battlefield all told.
Yeah, it's going to remove 9 power.
Yeah, now it doesn't really change the thought process though for Quicksort, right? It's still Indestructible, +1/+1 Vigilance, just chip them all in there and you figure it out.
When your creatures can't die in combat and they don't have to tap to attack, there's actual no drawback to attacking in this spot. There's no reason not to just send them all, especially when 6 of them have lifelink. He's going to go way out of range.
This is a massive attack step now for Quicksort.
And one of the sneaky benefits of them having Vigilance is he drew another March of the Multitudes. This is not going to end well for Legend. Even if this combat goes okay, he's going to make more tokens at the end of the next turn, start his next turn with even more creatures.
Legend is fully up against the ropes here. Quicksort looking to advance.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to take 10 here and go to 1. Lose 2 of his blockers.
What a beating, and plus a huge life gain buffer as well, making it fully impossible here. There's finally a land off the top for Legend, but it has to be too late at this point.
Yeah, imagine if he had his 6th mana here. He could cast Find Finality and wipe the board. And you can't even respond with March of the Multitudes because then those would die. And he would really put himself back in this game. But unfortunately, he just didn't have the mana and wasn't able to do much.
Nope, so instead, he's going to get attacked with everything from Quicksort. Easy game. Everybody in the red zone and a full beating here. -18 and Legend goes down. That is Quicksort picking up the win here.
Quicksort moves on to the top 16. Luckily for Legend, he had a loss to give. He drops down to the lower bracket. He's got one more shot at it. So hopefully he can pull through.
Yeah, he's got another shot, and he's going to have to make do with that. Because, boy, that was a beating. Quicksort showing no mercy in our feature match area here with the 2 beatdown decks. The first game, of course, was super close, right? That was the mono red, and it was down to 1 with lethal for multiple turns, but he decided to stay patient until Legend actually kind of forced the issue by saying, hey, you're going to just lose your lance. And he's like, well, I guess I'll go for it. It's like, okay, good game. You know, it's like, all right, that
I wonder
works.
if he didn't make that emblem and just waited for it to absorb. Would Quicksort have kept holding on, waiting for an instant burn spell and actually let him draw into the absorb?
It's really funny to think about. that he might have done better by not making
the
a
emblem.
Teferi emblem somehow.
By the turn before, playing Teferi, drawing a card, and tried to search for that absorb. It might have, we don't know, but it's one of those funny lessons where sometimes you wait and play around things and you allow your opponent to actually draw into what you're playing around.
Yeah.
So it's a delicate balance. Sometimes you got to go for it, sometimes you got to wait, you just got to know. And
I mean, that never happens to us because we just jam, right? It's like, I got lethal, show me something.
send them in, attack. Always go for it.
But smart players will sometimes fall for that trap. So yeah, that's Quicksort though. Boom, 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 right on through out of the Group B. And he has, once again, sent Legend into the spot where he's got to kind of work his way through. All right, it sounds like Becca Scott standing right behind us with Quicksort right now.